Who does that? What's wrong with doing a podcast? Who starts radio stations?
People that have been heavily censored, I think, throughout the COVID years. That's who starts radio stations when they can't get a fair go in mainstream media. So we had gone through 2021, 2022, and we'd been heavily kind of hit by the mainstream media in terms of the things that they would say about us. We'd never get very rarely we'd get a right of reply, especially in the more kind of popular things that went out, like Fire and Fury and that kind of thing, that documentary that went out. And so we were voiceless in that way. We'd been censored off Facebook. I think we tried to get on about 6 different times, and the last time we tried to get on lasted about half an hour before we were pulled down. So it was a way to get a voice.
Yeah.
And to voice the sorts of issues that the people that support us care about. And to do that in a balanced way where we were quite happy to hear from people with other points of view in opposition to exactly, that's not what the mainstream media does. They present one side generally only, and they ridicule the other side. So
yeah. And who's we? Are you talking about the Voices of Freedom group? And who was talk to us about who's part of that? What kind of voices you were trying to express, and why were you being censored?
Sure. So it was myself, Claire Deeks, and Libby Johnson. We started Voices for Freedom in December of 2020 in response to the measures that the government were taking surrounding COVID and what we could see coming down the track. So all the kinds of rights and freedoms that were being trampled over during that time with respect to lockdowns and censoring free speech. And we could see that mandates and things were on the horizon for the upcoming vaccine. And what we noticed was within our own networks was that there were all these people feeling like that they weren't happy with what was going on, but they felt like they were the only ones. Mm-hmm. And so what we wanted to do was to bring people together in their local kind of areas so that they could have support with one another when they were finding that their friends and their family were thinking that they were nuts. They needed someone else to talk to because they felt like they were going a bit bonkers.
Yeah, and I think it was a great time to reveal that we lived in a society where it was not okay to have differing views. And if you had different views, it was a problem, and you were cancelled, you were censored, you might lose your jobs, your friends don't want to talk to you, and you're like, whoa, how the hell did we end up in this place where we have Twitter censoring scientists and experts and only pushing one side? We all know why now, but at that time, it must have been quite a different time to start Voices of Freedom and then RCR Radio as a result of being not given that fair opportunity to express yourself.
Oh, right. It was so full on, it wasn't funny. You were called, these are just regular people in New Zealand, Kiwis, who lived fairly kind of normal vanilla lives. And they all of a sudden they had an opinion that was contrary to that of the government and the mainstream media that were amplifying the government's message. And they were called all sorts of names. They were ridiculed publicly, by the government via their 1 p.m. stand-ups. And so, they did everything that they could to shut down that kind of conversation, whether that be censoring you on social media or creating social pressure out there in your work environments, your family environments, such that you kind of censored yourself because you didn't want to create a scene and that sort of thing. So, we created the Voices for Freedom, which pretty rapidly took off. The other two have got backgrounds in law. My background was in primary education, and we also had successful businesses in the online kind of community space, craft and healthy food and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. All the things that they targeted when the Disinformation Project swung into play and told everybody that those were dangerous sort of right-wing funnels.
What the hell was that?
I know, right?
The Disinformation Project. How do you come up with that? That was just bizarre. That was like George Orwell 1984. Someone's read that book, gone, this is exactly what we should be doing. The point of the book is to not do this.
It was insane. And the level of kind of expert kind of sentiment that was out there for these people. They were the go-to for the media for information on this kind of thing, as if they had some kind of expert opinion or knowledge of what we were doing. And you know, we actually would have been quite open to talk to any of these people if they'd ever actually reached out and just said, hey, can we have a conversation, find out what it is that you're trying to do.
Yeah.
You know, we weren't trying to hide stuff away.
Yeah, I had Linda Wharton on the show from the Health Forum. And she talked to me about how Facebook just, you know, cancelled her page, which had 60,000 people with vaccine injuries and stories, and that just disappeared. We all know now, Mark Zuckerberg's come out and said, well, it was the governments that were pressuring us and we had to do this. But she also told me that Sean Plunkett called her a cooker. And it was like, well, that's surprising to hear from Sean Plunkett to be saying that. So, yeah, there were a lot of name callings and from all sorts of different people. And these are the, like, you know, they become these very angry and upset minority groups for some reason, you know. And that's what kind of led to not just RCR, but the whole Elon buying X and this floodgates of, you know, free speech opening up and the consequences of that. But what's also surprising is that I had a conversation on my show with a lawyer, and his view was that New Zealand did not do anything illegal in exercising its rights. So there is an issue around how much power the parliament has and the rights that they get to exercise compared to free speech rights you would find in America. You know, I had a guy on the show this morning, he talked about how New Zealand is like a police state. The police, you know, if they don't like you posting stuff on social media and you have a firearms license, they'll use that to come and knock at your door and cause trouble. And the justice system protects the police, and they don't want to punish them too much. We live in a state where it's pretty much a government state, the New Zealand, you know, in many ways. So as much as these free speech stuff, you know, we can do now, but if you look at legislation, we still don't have that much freedom as in a democracy.
Well, they certainly trampled all over it with the COVID response, and you know, that's one of the main things that we exist to right, essentially, is that we want to ensure that what happened in 2020 and through to 2023, 24 never happens again.
Yeah.
And that's been our mission from the beginning, is, you know, this stops when enough people in New Zealand stand together and say no next time, whatever it looks like.
Yeah.
And so that's, you know, our mission with VFF and then with RCR is to reach more people with the information that's important so that they can understand what's actually going on. Not rabbit hole stuff, just actual facts of the matter. And then you've got a stronger kind of group of people who are prepared to say, look, we saw what happened that last time. They might have gone along with it, but they've seen the consequences, and so that they don't want to see that happen again and affect their lives going forward from there.
Yeah, and I guess RCR took off in many ways. You guys did really well. You were all over the place. Yeah.
Well, people, we get called all sorts of things about whether or not we're being funded by Russians, and, you know, like it's really quite fantastical.
Conspiracy theories.
Yeah, but what people fail to realise is that there is a large number of people in this country who are not happy with what has been going on. They're not happy with what the previous government did. And when they see an organisation that actually gets stuff done, then people are more willing to help contribute financially, and that's why we're able to do the things that we do. And also, you know, with a degree with RCR, we kind of came out playing bigger than we were with big advertising and stuff like that. And that comes about because of the relationships that we formed during the COVID times. So, you know, the mandates, the information that was coming out with the vaccine, and legal kind of stuff surrounding people's employment, and the resources that we gave freely, and we helped people through with regular webinars and you know, documents and template letters and all these sorts of things. That helped people across a broad spectrum of New Zealand. So just like at the parliamentary protest, you know, it's often said people in that crowd, you had beneficiaries to billionaires. Everybody was affected. And so when you get that, you have people in all sorts of positions in this country who have different companies or connections and things, and so you can access things like, billboards or certain types of advertising that looks like it would be really expensive, but because of the relationships that you have, you get it for a good deal.
Yeah.
And it's all very helpful in terms of, trying to take on the big boys at that game.
Yeah, and that's citizen journalism at its finest, activating as an ecosystem, and everyone's just getting behind and pulling together the resources. As much as, you want to fight free speech, it's about resources. Do you have the resources to be able to act and, implement and get stuff going? And you need people to host the shows, you need frequencies, you need space, you need equipment, you need advertising, marketing, then, you got listeners, and there's a lot goes on.
It's been a big learning curve as to how much goes into running a radio station with editors and all the sorts of tech that you've got to have going. And then there's another layer on that because, we're coming out of a time where we were heavily censored, and so, our with VFF, our website was always under attack in one way or another, and so you have to have a higher degree of security on your site. And so we have people in the background, we have very high security on our sites and lots of redundancy and things like that, which adds additional cost to the situation.
I mean, me doing this podcast is like a full-time gig, It's full on. It's not just the recordings, but the edits, the posts, the social media, the organizing of the guests. But it's worth it, right? It's about creating a sophisticated society like New Zealand and any other sophisticated country must have a diverse range of media that people can access to, whether it's different views, whether it's different styles of, whether it's a radio, it's a podcast, whether it's a news publication, whether it's satire news, whether it's, citizen journalist on X, which is where I get a lot of my news. There's a lot of great Kiwis on that platform doing really good, I don't think they get paid for it, but they want to contribute. And I think that's a good thing. The more you go towards like a united vision of media where everybody's saying the same thing, then I think we're in trouble. We're in big trouble.
Yeah, very definitely. I think, we probably have a weird space that we're in because we're kind of this hybrid organisations that are to do with advocacy and creating pressure really to force change in the country. And so we have that as our core with kind of like a media arm so that we have the ability to get stories out and that sort of thing, as well as drive campaigns through our mailing list. And
So what is the main focus and agenda for Voices of Freedom? If RCR is like a media arm for you, what is it that you're pushing and what is it that you want to see as change, and what are the stuffs that you have achieved, I guess?
Gosh, well, more recently, I suppose the obvious things, the campaigns that we had in the last year were surrounding the COVID inquiry.
Oh, yes, yeah.
So the first phase of the COVID inquiry we weren't overly happy with. It was very restricted in terms of the terms of reference and what it was and was not going to look at.
Yeah.
And so we ran a campaign to pretty much come up with a new COVID inquiry that looked at the important things that needed to be looked at in order to ensure that this sort of thing doesn't happen again. And so we came up with so we have a big team and we have lots of connections. So our head of legal, Katie Ashby-Coppins, and a bunch of other people put together a comprehensive set of terms of reference for what we thought needed to be in a COVID inquiry. And so we used that as a petition of sorts to gather signatures to take to the Parliament to say this is what the people want. Is this broadened sort of set, what we currently have is not good enough. And we presented that last year to New Zealand First outside Parliament in winter time sometime. And that had around 34,000 signatures. So that was, it's good. It made it into Parliament, and as you know, the second phase was announced, and much of what we had in our terms of reference are covered in the second phase of the COVID inquiry, which doesn't seem to have, while it's launched, it's not really doing much at the moment. So that's on our list of things to chase as soon as we kind of get back fully this year. Other ones that we were interested in were the World Health Organization was doing the whole amendments to the international health regulations.
Mm-hmm.
And as the governments were changing from the last Labour government to this current government, we were putting pressure on to say no or to exit sort of some of the amendments that would shorten the timeframes and give our governments less time to consider changes and things like that. So that was another thing that we were successful with. New Zealand First was pretty key on not giving away sovereignty for the country and signing away the ability for us to make our own decisions around things like pandemics and health and responses and that kind of thing.
Didn't we sign the treaty of global health by the WHO around future pandemics?
I think that's still. I'm hazy on the details of that now, but there was a meeting at the end of last year that we did have a representative there, but I think all of this stuff is still ongoing, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens as a result of Trump presidency, as well as to whether or not he pulls out of the WHO again and what impact that has on everyone else.
Well, he's pulling out.
Yeah.
He said that he's going to pull out in his campaigns. He pulled out last time he was president. So he's signing executive orders now. So I think he's going to have to pull out. That has to happen when, Anthony Fauci this morning got pardoned.
I saw that.
It's funny, huh? You don't do any crimes, you get pardoned. Well,
yeah, it's quite telling. We're going to pardon you right back to 2014 when you started tinkering with gain of function research.
Yeah. Funding labs that create viruses. It's bizarre, isn't it? Would you look at the Bill of Rights around amendments where people's rights are not, I guess, stepped on when it comes to mandates and their freedom of movement and freedom of speech? And do you think that needs amendments?
That's probably a question more for the legal heads in our organisation. But yes, I mean, if it's already there, they need to uphold what's already there, right? But they were able to trample over it.
Yeah, and they got away with it. The High Court
did.
The High Court said, well, they didn't actually do anything illegal. So you kind of wonder what's going on here.
Yes, it's definitely something that needs to be strengthened for the sake of all of us in the country. It can't be allowed to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the way that I look at the first phase of the COVID inquiry, it basically says, well, we could have done a better job at shutting the country down, and next time we'll do it better and we'll make sure we get away with it better, that you all are not upset, but we'll still shut it down, and that's kind of like what I picked up.
Well, it was interesting because when they launched the first phase, they invited us along as media to the launch kind of event that was happening in West Auckland. And so I went along, and it was only us and One News that turned up. One News bailed pretty quickly, and so I ended up having a good amount of time to actually just speak with the commissioners and their team,
Interesting.
sort of just casually. And so what I learned from that was that you had the main guy that was leading it, the main commissioner, Tony Blakely. He had a preset sort of idea that when the next one comes, because it's definitely coming in his mind, the pandemic, that is, we just need to go harder. We just need to do what we did, but better, kind of thing.
That's what
that's a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
And so we got busy, and they had actually invited us to meet with them, and we just had sort of missed those invitations, or I don't know, they weren't top of our priority because we weren't really that kind of keen on the first phase. But then we decided that we would do it when they chased us up. And when we got into those meetings, they were like an hour and a half long each. We had 2 of them. And, we went pretty hard in that time, and we showed them evidence of the sorts of messaging that was coming out from the government that contradicted itself. And we could see the progression that we'd managed to get through to these guys by the end of the second session. They thanked us quite profusely before we left, and you could tell they were genuine. That you'd actually, there's one thing that we noticed with all of this stuff was you think that people know what went on and how it impacted the people that said no to taking the vaccine, or those of us that were affected by the mandates in one way or another. But I think that there's like a group of people in these kind of positions of power that just exist in a bubble, and they don't really realise what it's like to be on the other side. And so when you kind of get through to them, I think it's quite shocking to them because no one's really painted that picture for them before. So while the phase 1 kind of report was 700 pages or something like that, it was crazy. I haven't read the whole thing. I just read the summary. It says one thing. What they were saying in the media, I think, was more important, which was validating the sorts of perspectives that we'd been putting out and people like us had been putting out, and that had been called misinformation and conspiracy theories, when actually it wasn't. It was valid, and their messaging around that was important to signal, I think, a bit of a change. And so, yes, while they kind of clung to some of their messaging about timing and all of that kind of thing, they did concede that when it was apparent that certain things like the vaccine wasn't working and that kind of thing, that it was absolutely insane to be punishing people in that way for not taking it, for destroying their lives, taking away their livelihood, stopping them from going to cafes and playing sports and all the crazy things that happened. So
yeah. It's a bizarre obsession, this whole pandemic thing. It's like, do you really want to get the virus and then go get your parents sick? And it's like, why are you guilt tripping me for? It's like everybody has family members who are sick. They've got cancer. They've got this. Are we gonna? Everybody has to stop because we have health issues and everybody should stay home. This is a very bizarre obsession that people picked up about the pandemic and the vaccine and the lockdowns and the 2-meter distances, and you can't go on a plane. You got to wear a mask. It's a very bizarre obsession. Why don't we do that for everything else? Yeah, well, I hope that's where we end up with phase 2 of the COVID inquiry.
Yes.
And we don't pursue these we go for targeted. Whoever needs help should be looked after and everybody else can carry on. But I'm not confident that our health systems are set up in that way that it can really cater for targeted approach and be very sophisticated. And I don't think the World Health Organization is cutting down on spending money on vaccines. They're still selling and promoting booster shots. There's a lot of debate about removing COVID-19 vaccine advertisements off TV. The big pharma, which RFK Jr., I think is going to go very hard on that. So I think there's going to be a lot of hard work to try and undo all of this thinking. I don't think it's just going to happen.
But it's interesting to see that as a result of the last few years, things like the childhood vaccination schedule, I think definitely here in New Zealand, but overseas as well, people have become a lot more wary of these kinds of products and what they can and can't do, and then whether or not they're needed. And you're seeing that the rates are going down. So there's this loss of trust in the mainstream kind of medical system. And that, I think, is going to take quite a lot for them to try and gain back. I'd say it's going to be near on impossible for some people to trust that system ever again. And while, obviously mainstream medicine is fantastic if you've had a car crash or, for emergency care, but for the other side of things, with chronic conditions and things, it's there's problems, and people are starting to wise up to all of that stuff. So, I think we're in a time of change where people are looking for alternatives, and we're starting to see the ability to be able to actually talk about that now. So I'm looking forward to what RFK Jr. can do in the States, and hopefully some of that thinking will trickle down here, just to be critical of these massive companies that have so much power in our systems to educate the next sort of sweep of doctors and nurses and medical professionals. Indoctrinate them into a way of, basically just dispensing more of their products rather than looking at really what is health and how is it affected, and looking at the whole body and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And Joe Rogan talks a lot about how he cured his COVID-19. He took ivermectin and he took a few other things, and he was back and up and running in 2 days, whereas all these other people took all these vaccine and booster shots and they had long COVID and they couldn't go back for a walk. They were exhausted. They had no energy. So it's like, these holistic alternative ways of treating yourself and your body is much better than all this sort of modern medicine.
Yeah, well, that's what we saw at kind of an anecdotal level, and there were some studies that backed up some of that kind of stuff. But of course, they were slammed, as you would imagine.
Yeah.
Cannot be allowed to exist.
Do you remember what they did to Joe Rogan on CNN?
Yeah, they coloured him. Yeah, so that he looked sort of yellowy.
It was so good.
Yeah.
It was brilliant. I was like, what are you guys doing? Are you guys stupid or But they were just unhinged. They were just going for it. It's like anything we can use, just use it. Because they're like, well, Joe Rogan's gonna debunk this, but he's got a only 26 million audience. We can still try and control the 200 million we got. Just lie, and it's like, you guys are worse than Putin.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's biting in the bum now when you see. I mean, not here in New Zealand CNN, but our mainstream corporate media. You see that Trust in News report from AUT, I think it is, that does it every year. And it just keeps dropping.
Yeah.
It's like 33% or something this last year. And that was down from like 42 or something the year before. And then 50-something the year before that. So it's really just every year it's tanking.
It's interesting to see what Trump's going to do. And I think with all the Fauci, pardons and everybody else, I would expect that there's going to be some declassification of files, and there's going to be a lot of hearings. So there's a lot of truth that will kind of come out in a very chaotic way. Media is going to pick that up, and everybody's going to talk about it. And I think people are going to eventually nice and easily awaken to this idea that they can talk and express themselves. Just like we had this experience of just like relief, and we can talk about stuff when labor was out, we're going to see the same thing in America. Right, day one that these guys are gone, a lot of people are gonna be like, "Wow, phew, we can talk, we can express more things." I think that's gonna be the first 10 months of just constant explosion on X of all these news things. But then it will be interesting to see, well, is it the independent media that's gonna drive the real change? Is it gonna be the government? Because when we look at what Luxon has done in New Zealand in the last 12 months, it started well. Winston was going after the media, David Seymour was going after the media, Melissa Lee was doing a good job. They're like, well, you guys need to function in your, in your private sector. You got to innovate, you got to keep up and blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, Melissa Lee is gone. And you wonder, well, like, is Luxon trying to do what Jacinda did in terms of, be friends with the media, propaganda? He wants to, and then Paul Goldsmith comes in and he's like, well, actually, we're going to look at this Digital Fair Act bill. I say, what? No, this is why we voted for you. So you don't do that. And that doesn't make any sense. And that kind of boosted the mainstream media a little bit by 4%. Their trust actually went up. From, I think it was 36% and went up to 40% after all of those announcements. So they were kind of like, well, we will try and help you here, But that's not your job. Your job is to run the government and not to kind of help media, And what do you make of this whole Digital Bills Act from, I guess, being in the media? How do you see it?
Oh, the one where they wanted to
take money off Google.
Oh, right, yeah.
For the search links.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. Yeah, no, I mean, but there was a few different things that happened last year. There was a sort of the ability to control what online platforms like ours could say and do and hold you accountable in different ways. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm sure that was one that was in the middle of the year. I think that was a submissions process. I can't remember the name of the bill exactly. The online, is it online? No, I don't think it was censorship, but I'd have to find that out for you.
So this is a government organization talking to you about what you can and can't say on air or online.
It was imposing another regulator in that space that would have a lot of control.
Wow.
And so I think that had a lot of opposition to it via the submissions sort of feedback process.
Wait till they come across my podcast. Say, who's this guy? What are you doing? I got a call from NZME one day, and they're like, "Are you from New Zealand?" I'm like, "Yep." "What are you doing with your podcast?" And I'm like, "Well, you're gonna go listen to it then." But it's interesting how people find out. They're like, "Oh, what are you doing over here, huh?" But full noise, go for it.
Yeah,
Yeah. Screw you guys, piss off.
Yeah, well, we are always saying there's no white knights in all of this, and so we don't put any of these politicians up on a pedestal. Is there going to be a savior of some kind? No.
Do you give them slots on your radio show?
Yeah, we do. Yeah. We
And
invite
they all
all of
come?
the politicians. I think we've had every political party except for the Greens. They're the only ones who haven't shown. They decline. They keep declining. We keep asking, but they keep declining to come on. But we've had people from all of the others.
Okay.
Yeah, because we're quite happy to speak to those that we might disagree with. We're quite happy to give them a fair go, to let them, no gotchas, just to let them say what they think and what they want to put across, so that you have some balance. Obviously, we have our bias, but we're not censoring the other view.
Yeah.
But get back to the whole idea of the sort of the white knight savior is that, a lot of people look to politics in that way. Oh, great, Trump's in, he's going to save us all. Well, no, that's what we kind of don't necessarily believe that. There might be obviously some positive things that come out of it, but ultimately, if it means that you sit back comfortably in your chair and you stop doing anything, then that's not a good thing. You have to keep fighting for what is right and keep these feet to the fire all the time.
And is it a sustainable business model, being in radio business?
It's really difficult.
Yeah.
It's, just like the regular media, it's not easy right now.
How do you make your money? Is it just subscriptions? Is it donations?
Both.
Is it advertising, sponsorships?
All of the above.
Yeah.
So, it requires, I think, a bit of a mix of everything.
Mm-hmm.
The regular model, the mainstream model of advertising is not working out so well right now.
Mm-hmm.
As you can see, all the different corporate media are shutting down and reducing what they're putting out, most of them, or closing down altogether. It doesn't help when your country has been affected so badly financially from the decisions of the last few years. It makes money tight in business. So, one of the first things to go is advertising spend. So while we do have the ability for sponsors to come on and sponsor the station, we're not going to rely on that because that can't be your model. It's failing as a model. So we have a weekday news email that goes out to our regular subscribers, paid subscribers, called the Bites News, and people also donate what they can to kind of keep us going.
Great. I mean, that's a really good way to kind of figure out new models and get your kind of your grounding going, and
we also have things
yourself.
like we print things like fence signs and things like that people can put on there outside of their driveway, so that people driving past can kind of see the advertising in that way. And if you ever do a road trip, you'll sort of notice that you'll see these sort of fence signs pop up in paddocks and stuff like that. We've got some bigger ones, and there's sort of other ways of getting your brand out there and letting people know that you exist. And that's part of our campaigns as well. So we will also fundraise to do things like at the moment we're looking at the gene technology bill that is being put out. And so
you support it or you don't? Or
no, don't support it.
Okay.
But, in the same way, we've had people on the station who do support it.
Yep.
And we let them say why,
Yep.
And obviously, we probably get more people that don't support it on, but the door's open to the others.
Yeah.
And so as part of a campaign like that, we might do, we might print flyers or put up some billboards or provide different resources for people. So we have a template that people can use to give feedback as part of the government's submissions process.
Yeah.
And so, people can help to fund those campaigns as well, which is all.
Yeah, I guess you have you figured out an engagement model to get your listeners engaged, and part of that engagement, they feel like, you're getting them engaged with influencing what a bill should be, and so that kind of drives donations, subscriptions. They want to get the news from you, so it's a very sticky model, which works, I guess.
Yeah, well, it helps people to feel like they have a voice.
Yeah,
and
unlike the media that just feeds them propaganda, and when they want to engage, they're like, "No, we don't want to see you or hear from you. We just need you to listen to us, and we sit on the top, and you do what we tell you to do," type thing.
Yeah. So we always encourage people to, take on board what resonates with them, discard what doesn't.
Yeah.
It's up to them to make up their own mind on the information that we present. We're not telling anyone what to think.
Yeah.
But if they want support if they care about a topic, that they're able to join with others to create public pressure, then we'll support them to do that however we can. And we're always working on kind of other ways of making that as easy as possible. Yeah.
So what about the gene technology bill do you object, or RCR objects? What about it is?
Gosh, well, there's a lot of different things that are a problem with it. There's obviously the safety kind of element. There's food, how does it impact the food that we eat, the labelling of the food, that whether or not it has gene edited ingredients in the food that you might be eating. The consequence onto the economy and exports from the organic and the non-GMO sector, as well as premium products that go overseas. So farmers are worried about it in terms of contamination of their crops and other things like that. We're running webinars. We had one last Thursday. We've got another one this Thursday with different people in the field to discuss from their perspective why it's so important.
What does the bill actually allow people to do? They can inject hormones in meat and stuff like that, or is it like human DNA modification, gene modifications, putting nanotechnologies in your body?
It's introducing a regulator that would and relaxing, I think, the rules. That we've had quite tight rules around this sort of stuff in our country.
Yeah,
it's difficult to do this kind of research, and so what they're wanting to do is relax it, make it easier to do this kind of thing, to bring in those kinds of products into the country. So people are worried, especially after the last 4 years with the COVID injection, that a lot of people feel that was gene technology, and that wasn't a great thing. Had its health implications that came alongside that.
Yeah,
and you certainly don't want that happening in the medical space. There are things like, if two overseas regulators approve a certain product in the medical space, then we can just into New Zealand and bypass our kind of safety mechanisms.
Right.
Which is not, that's just not a great idea.
Yeah.
We need to have our own robust processes that things have to go through to protect the people in New Zealand.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. I come from the technology world. I love technology in many ways. And I get the moral question about DNA modification. I get the moral questions around nanotechnologies being put in your body and this ability to, whether it might be surveillance or use that nanotechnology to do certain commands, whatever it is. But, I love things like Neuralink. I don't know if you've heard of Neuralink. And it's a chip that you can,
There's Musk.
Yeah, implant in your brain. At the moment, it does a lot of things that are actually really good. If you've had an accident, you can't move. They've done a couple of implants. And this one guy, he's had an accident. I think you call them paraplegic. Is that the word?
Paraplegic.
Paraplegic, is that's the word. So he can't move at all. Like he's fully, he can talk. And so they put the chip in, and now he can do a lot of things with that chip. Like he can look at a computer screen, he can move things around, he can move the cursor around. He's kind of using his mind and he not so much of his eyes. So it's actually very sophisticated, plugged in. And in the future, it can actually activate the parts of the brain that kind of talks to your nervous system. So if you can't walk, it can actually kind of get that going for you again, and then you can walk again. And I think the ultimate goal, which is where I think a line will be crossed for a lot of people, is if you want to be equal to the machines that are getting smarter, you need to get the human brains process much more information. That's how you kind of get the human-machine symbiosis. Otherwise, you're going to have machines that have these brains that process much more information, create this polarization of intelligence. So that's kind of like, that's what Elon talks about, which is very dystopian. Which is, you know, it's
I'd say that a lot of the people that follow us would be terrified by that prospect.
Yeah, which I love. That's kind of like my world, but not a dystopian world.
You can totally see how that's a good, you know, it has good uses, right?
Yeah.
To help people in positions like that. But oftentimes,
it's abused.
Things that have good reasons for being are then used for other ways. So
it can be weaponized. The weaponization of artificial intelligence is a big problem. Even Elon talks about the fact that we need regulation here. It's good things, but we got to make sure we use it properly. Otherwise, you're going to end up with something like ChatGPT. And if you talk to ChatGPT, you can say, hey, what's more dangerous? Is it starting a nuclear war or misgendering Caitlyn Jenner? It will tell you misgendering Caitlyn Jenner is actually more of a problem than starting a nuclear war.
Right, I must go home and try that one. I do wonder, because it gets to know you after a while. I use it a bit, and you know, I think it can tell you what you want to hear too. So you have to, you know, it can be a helpful assistant, but it can also lie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a tricky one for sure. I mean, but it also has added a lot of value into human society, into the jobs that it can do, help humans do the things they're good at and not waste their time in doing things that they're not good at. But I think humans need to learn how to kind of make sure that they are not being driven by the machines, that they are in control and they can tell the machine to stop, and I'm not going to listen to that, right? It's the same thing with media is, you know, we need to teach people to not outsource their ability to make a decision on what's true and what's not true to the media or to the government. They need to hold that themselves. And they can say, okay, government, you tell me what the truth is. You media, you tell me what the truth is. Joe Rogan, you tell me what the truth is. X, you tell me. I'm going to, you know, have a mechanism that I have learned through education or whatever it is, and I can make up my mind to what the truth is. And truth can be subjective. Truth can be different. It can evolve. I can change my mind. I can have different ideas. I can talk to different people, you know. You know, I had Paul Moon on my show yesterday morning, and wow, like my history of New Zealand was just rewiring in my brain in like every second. You know, he's amazing, you know, but so much I didn't know, and that was because of my, you know, the lack of information that's out there, and people that control information, and they just feed you this stuff, you know. I think that's kind of like a very important piece in the puzzle, is people finding that power to decide for themselves what the truth is.
Yeah,
it's like, well,
thinking.
Yeah, it's like, why do we have to shut down Candace Owens from coming to New Zealand? So we're sophisticated people. We can listen to her. She can say whatever she wants to say. People can say Hitler was a good guy. People can say Hitler is a bad guy, because the truth surfaces on the top. You know, people can say, oh, Hitler didn't mean to kill all these Jews. He gassed them because that was the easiest way for the Jews to die. He didn't know anything. He couldn't do anything else with them. Daryl Cooper, he's a historian, revisionist. He was on Tucker Carlson saying this stuff. It's like, people were outraged. It's like, Tucker Carlson, what do you think you're doing? You're giving platform to this guy. I was like, well, I can't be the gatekeeper of truth. That's how me personally on my show, I have to keep myself on check. I can't be the gatekeeper of truth. I can't say, oh, you're not you're lying, or, trying to put you in a position where,
I think that people have kind of gotten lazy when it comes to hearing things that they disagree with too. And just because you hear something that you don't think is right doesn't mean that it should be shut down.
Yeah.
And I try and live by that with my own social media accounts and things. So, my personal ones, that I let people have their say, and if they want to disagree with me, cool. I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
I will only sort of block people and things if they are getting really, really abusive and not wanting to actually engage in it.
Yeah, they have a different agenda. They've already made up their mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's healthy. It's healthy to be challenged about what you think and what you believe, and so that you can hone your arguments and, change and improve.
Yeah, sometimes also interest-based. Like, there can be a lot of truth, but that doesn't mean that I have to be forced to partake in that truth. Paul was talking about the countries that live in a post-religious society. They perform worse than countries that live in a religious society. I'm like, okay, cool, we can debate that, and that's, we can talk about that, that's cool. But he's not forcing me to engage in a religious way of life. It's like, okay, that's cool, get it. You guys do that. And I benefit from that, and I love being part of that sort of enriched culture where everybody coexists in many ways, whether you're Jewish, you're a Christian, or you're a Muslim, or you're a Buddhist, or you're an atheist, or you're agnostic, or, everybody can exist in that. And we all add, and we want to maximize our usefulness. We want to minimize our harm. It's a good way to live your life by, but there's no need for that. If you're not on board, then I'm going to block you, I'm going to cancel you. And I've been blocked so many times on X. It's just, it's brilliant. The latest one was Gilda Kirkpatrick blocked me.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, she did, because I was criticizing the New Zealand First, and obviously she donates money to them. And so when it got to around October last year, I was like, I've had enough of this. Politicians, they're not here to, they're just politicians, they're not, why are we putting so much trust in them? So I started to criticize, because I thought what they were doing, that since they've come into government, they were actually not doing anything that was great. If you look at our GDP, we, according to the IMF, who, a lot of people may not trust, but it's interesting data, right? Iraq had better GDP growth per capita in 2024 than New Zealand did. And I don't mean to say, oh, we are better than Iraq, but we have to understand, well, what are they doing that they're having better GDP growth than us? Is it that we are not using our resources well? Is it trade? Is it internal politics? Is it the way we manage our money? And then you look at someone like Javier Milei in Argentina. He's got, for the first time in 100 years, he's got a surplus in the budget. It's like, how can he do it? And what are why would you not do what he's doing? Where do you get your economics from? And who do you listen to? And so there's a lot of that incremental sort of, they all get excited and they go for elections and they make a lot of noise, and then they just get lazy. And they're kind of like, oh, we don't want to push too hard and we don't do this. So I started criticizing them constantly. And she had enough of it. And she's like, I'll block you. I'm like, okay, you can block me if you want. That doesn't stop me from speaking my truth.
Yeah, well, you have to keep the feet to the fire. You
Yeah.
have to keep, my personal opinion is the system is broken. So I don't have a whole lot of faith in it.
Yeah.
But I agree, I do believe that people power is really important.
Yeah, and if you rely on life being better, if you rely on the government to make your life better, I think that's like a slippery slope. You're already in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're already in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the plans for 2025 for RCR and Voices of Freedom?
Yeah, well, I think it's already shaping up to be a big year. We've had 3 weeks of January and we've had 3 campaigns. So
it seems like it's just multiplying.
There was not much holiday break for those of us that are still trying to kind of battle this stuff. So the first one was the Treaty Principles Bill that was they have feedback due in the first week of January. And as you know, that was a really big one for the whole country. So that had heaps of submissions. The website crashed, rah. And then there's been a feedback process for puberty blockers from the Ministry of Health. And so we helped with people to be able to give their feedback on that. And and then now we're doing the GE thing. So it's more of that kind of getting back to what we used to do.
Yeah.
Which was really create pressure. We've over 100,000 people on our mailing list. 40,000 people in local groups around the country who will deliver flyers and get out and hold signs and, get the word out on different things. So that is, again, it's just our focus for the year is to.
It's good to kind of bring that focus back. This is what we're good at. This is what we should be doing.
Yeah.
And then just cut back and it's nice to have those kind of resolutions. Can we do less and can we do the basics right instead of, let's do more, let's do this, let's do that, let's do this. That makes a lot of sense. Where do you stand with the Principles Bill?
Personally? Or
yeah, personally.
It's hard to say because even within our organisation there's different views.
Yeah, it's a good sign.
I don't personally think that I've listened to a lot of people talk about all the different things. Paul Moon's been on the station, Elizabeth Rata, and we've had Takuta Ferris and other people from Auckland University who have been on the pro side of, actually against the Treaty Principles Bill, but from the more pro Māori Party side, for want of a better term. I personally would probably lean to more of the way that New Zealand First thinks on this, which is I find it if you don't have a defined principles, then how do you apply something that is not defined? Mm-hmm. And if it didn't exist in the first place, we need to have a talk about that kind of thing. Yeah. How did that come around and what are we going to do from here on in? I just think about things in a practical sense. What is good for this country? Mm-hmm. Is it good for our country to have sort of separate rules based on your ancestry? That feels kind of yucky to me. Mm-hmm. So, and then what about people like me who have mixed? I have a bit of both. Mm-hmm. So
you get half.
Where do you stand? Yeah. So I don't know that I'd necessarily support Seymour's bill, but I support a discussion around it for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, you do have to question his motives, because if he wants to clarify all the definitions of the Treaty Principles Bill, why is he not including all the principles to be clarified or looked at? It seems like he's only looking at a few of them, not all of them, which I talked to Paul Moon about. So you do have to question what's the motive behind this. And then you're right. You kind of go back and go, well, why do you need the principles in the first place? And then you go back and say, well, the treaty was not really featured in the governance of the legislation from 1852 to 1975. So how did it actually come about to be of significance? Well, it was the activist who activated it. And that kind of then became a bill, and there was a tribunal set up. And then 1985 is when they started to kind of make all these claims, because it was the Labour government that sort of activated that. And then you look at the wider history of New Zealand, the deliberate immigration of the Polynesians that came here, and then that stopped, that knowledge was lost. And then it was not the British's intention to come and colonize. It was something that naturally happened, and then there was, government set up and whatnot. So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense to me as well. Because, I'm an immigrant. I came here 15 years ago through the short skill visa. I brought my investment because I was interested in the economy. I want to build business. I want to do that. So that's what I did, right? So, what's my identity as a New Zealand citizen, right? And you often see the Waitangi Day as the Independence Day of New Zealand or the Founding Day of New Zealand. Well, is it really the Founding Day of New Zealand, or is it just a treaty signed to deal with the problems of that time? And then there were new problems. That's why there was a parliament set up and a constitution set up. Then there were new problems. Then there were new problems. Then there were new problems, right? So you can say, well, the founding of New Zealand was when the Polynesians came in the 1300s. And then that evolved to what it is today. That's how the Americans tell their story. We had British colonies. Then the people were not happy with how they were managed. So they fought the colonies. And then the America was formed. It's the land of immigration. Everybody's welcome as long as you come legally and you contribute. Yeah, people abuse the system. They abuse the H-1B visa. They abuse this. They abuse that. And you deal with that. And people come across the borders. You deal with that, and you can, but you still maintain that sort of democracy and that it's the land of the people that are here. And you stick to the principles of, if people come, they contribute. There's a process for becoming the people, And I had Elliot on my show yesterday, and he was kind of talking about how we've ended up somehow in this position where there is the Pākehā, there is the indigenous people, and then there is the foreigners. Like you would be a foreigner, your kids would be forever foreigners, and and he was telling me like there are some policies in the health system where if my kid needs surgery and his kids, and he's Maori, his kids need surgery, his kids come first, not my kids. You're like, oh, okay, interesting. But I'm not saying that this is right or that's wrong. People can have different views.
It's not, when you look at the medical example like that and you have a hierarchy based on race rather than need, then you're asking for trouble in terms of societal harmony, right? Like that is not the recipe for a good harmonious society.
Yeah. And it's an interesting one, but it certainly feels like the conversation is we're having the wrong conversation. Everybody's talking about the Treaty Principles Bill, but they don't know what it is and what the principles are. They don't know much about New Zealand's history because we haven't been teaching the right history in school. The media doesn't want to talk about the real history. They kind of do it through this lens of oppressor and oppressed. And so we got to be sensitive about these people. And, we can't say that these people were not, like the Maori people are put on a pedestal. Like they never did any bad things. They didn't engage in cannibalism, for example, or they didn't fight among themselves. They didn't have issues themselves. And, but that's not true, So that's where trouble starts. And I think New Zealand's well past that, and New Zealand identity is different. You're a New Zealander.
Totally, and we're in 2025, not 1700 and something.
Which I kind of, I feel like we're having the wrong conversation for some reason. People are like fighting. And Paul had a really good way of explaining, like, he's saying, well, people are reacting like this because there is a general fragility about their culture. They're losing their language. It's part of evolution and immigration. It happens. But they're losing their language. They feel like they're under attack. They feel like they're losing their people, the population and whatnot. And that's where they use that to activate these hikois and do this and do that. It's actually more of it's kind of like an engagement farming exercise than actually, people in the media says, oh, this is the largest hikoi ever. Was it really? Was it organic? Was it generic? Was it really what people care, or was it actually farmed? And this engagement was actually farmed in many ways. It's not. Is it really real? And then, why was it farmed? And what were they exploiting amongst these 30,000 people? Was it their fragility? They were making them feel like they're about to lose something, their identity, they're guilt trapping them. What is it actually that they're doing to get that engagement? So all of that stuff is very interesting. What the truth is, who knows?
Yeah, well, yeah. I sort of think about that. People would sort of say things like, oh, the bill's trying to rewrite the treaty. And I'm like, can you show me where that, I'm really curious to know, where does it say that? And I've read it and I couldn't get my head around it. Maybe there is a way that it is doing that, but I just couldn't see that when I was reading it. And it seems like, this is the time that we live in, is you pick up a slogan and you run with it, regardless of whether or not it makes any sense or you've got evidence for it or you've actually got an argument. And I'm not saying that there isn't an argument for the other side, because I'm sure that there is. But, it's the people that kind of adopt this, and I can look back to my younger self and think that, probably I would have got swept up in a lot of this stuff too. That, it's like your goodness, your desire for people to live harmoniously and for justice and that sort of thing is kind of weaponized.
Yeah.
And your ignorance is weaponized too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it just keeps coming back to open your mind, ask critical questions, and be prepared to learn. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I like David Seymour. I kind of feel like, he's the only guy that I like in this whole government, space. I can't relate to other people. And I don't know why a lot of my audiences love New Zealand First. I find that very bizarre. It's like I have this New Zealand First audience. I didn't ask for this.
Well, I'll reserve my comment on some of that. But I think,
do you think I resonate to New Zealand First? Is that why you want to reserve your comments?
Oh, no. I meant about Seymour. I won't.
Oh, really? Do you not like him? Well, you're not.
Well, no, I think probably with people that get behind New Zealand First, it could be for a number of factors, is that they had more kind of freedom type folk in their ranks, more so than the other parties who were prepared to speak out, and so that automatically gets kind of an affinity with a large group of people because of what they've been through in the last few years and their hopes that they might have that might be able to be represented in the government sort of space. So I can see how that probably comes about. But again, with the warning of there are no saviours.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But governments are not going to go away, and we have to have some kind of interest in, who's running it and why they're in there and what's their motives and who's intelligent and who's politically savvy. And I think we went through this kind of exercise with Trump. It's like, oh, Trump's smart and he's a good politician and he's doing good stuff, but gosh, can he stop saying all of this stuff, And now we've kind of gone full circle and we're like, you know what, we don't care what he says. We just want the stuff done,
Yeah.
The society has got to that point in America where they're just like, oh, I don't care what he says.
Fed up with the nonsense.
Yeah, fed up with the nonsense. And he can troll and he can say crazy things. He can say that he's going to invade Canada. He wants Greenland. He wants to change the name of Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America. Don't care, Am I getting wealthier? Am I getting richer? Can I access the services do I need? Are we going back to the basics? And can we have male and female only? And can everybody get back to work? And he just signed a mandate today that everybody that works for the federal government get back in the office.
Right.
Yeah. No mucking about working in remotely, That's the first thing we should have done. If Jacinda was so amazing in pushing everybody to stay at home, she should have said, well, if you don't get back to work, I'm going to send the military at your home and I'm going to pick you up. She should have said exactly that, because that's what she used to keep us at home. So why would you not use those exact same words to say to people, get back to work? Otherwise, I'm going to send the military knock at your door. We're going to have a problem. And that's what I kind of pushed for Luxon to do. It's like, you need to sign to get people. And you know what? It's a good way to get rid of people. And that's what I think this executive order from Trump comes from Elon Musk. It's basically, if you mandate that, you're going to easily lose 15% of the employees. They're just going to quit because they don't want to come to work. And that's great. Go be productive in the remote gig economy. Don't do it in the government space. Go do it over there. And be more productive. It's good for the economy anyway. So it's a good way to kind of, instead of saying, well, we're going to fire the 15%.
They weed themselves out.
Yeah, you get them.
Yeah, I haven't looked at like any stats around that kind of stuff. Has there been a drop in productivity? And I mean, I know I have friends that work for government departments that work from home for a section of their week. That might live quite far away from wherever they have to go to the office. It might cost them couple of hours a day in travel and all the associated costs and that sort of thing. So I don't know. I mean, as an organisation, what we do, everyone's working remotely from home. So I feel like I'd be hypocritical to sort of say you've got to go back to the office. But I mean, if that's what the sort of stats are saying, that people are mucking around and not getting their job done, then sure, I understand that. You shouldn't get paid for not doing your job.
Yeah. And I think the argument that I keep hearing is that stuff goes on a lot in government environments, a lot.
Yes, well, they've got too many bureaucrats and they cost too much money, and it seems like there's a whole lot of waste.
Yeah, and they should have got rid of all of them from the start, not like incremental, incremental. And this is where you kind of have a lot of people, I guess, not happy with how the books have been managed, and you have this whole cabinet reshuffle now. It's like a typical corporate thing to do. If things are not working, you gotta quickly change before the media gets on your case, and you get all this negativity. And there's they probably knew about this new poll that was coming out where the Labour is ahead all of a sudden. What did you make of that?
I don't know. It's not surprising. I mean, I don't really like any of them much. So, it doesn't really surprise me.
Yeah.
That I mean, when they're not being seen to sort of be getting anything great done, then of course they're going to go down in people's eyes.
Yeah, that's simple. Who do you have as your hosts on your shows at RCR?
Well, we've got quite a few people actually. So we have Paul Brennan, who's ex-RNZ, Rodney Hyde, who was a former ACT leader, parliamentarian, and Marie Buskey, and Natalie Cutler-Welsh, Simon O'Connor, Jerry Pives, Tobias Tahi. I'm trying to not miss somebody out now. Marty Gibson. There's a whole bunch of people that we have that are hosting and contributing with skills in different areas. So people kind of tackle topics within their area of expertise or interest. So anything from free speech and that sort of thing to like gender ideology and well, sort of self-improvement and all the kind of different areas.
Yeah. And what's your listener numbers?
Well, we say that we've had, gosh, it must be getting up to about 500,000 unique listeners since we started. So obviously that's not tuning in every day.
That's good, yeah.
But that's over the time, and so it's a significant chunk.
Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really good numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how long have you been running?
I think we started in March 23.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just about a year and a half.
And then you probably have way higher impressions on social media for the clips you share. And
yeah. When you add it all together, for sure.
Because I don't listen to RCR, but I see RCR videos on X and I'll watch those or I'll read the text that comes with it. So a lot of people kind of do that because they consume news in that way.
Yeah, and that's one thing that we're looking to really ramp up this year is to increase the...
those channels. And that's what I started doing. I hired someone to kind of take my full episodes and then cut them out into smaller clips and then regularly have news discussed on the show, posted on these channels. Yeah. So I've started like 5 new channels to just kind of have different types of clips, different types of, and just keep posting them. Yeah. Yeah. And because people like to consume news that way instead of listening, it's always good to listen to a podcast in its entirety. Yes. If you're like, doing some chores around the house, you're pottering around, it's good to kind of have a really good listen. Like you listen to Paul Moon for 3 hours on my show, you kind of get the whole... Yeah, that's right. It's really important, the longer form stuff. Otherwise, you do get... If you just watch clips, so much of your reality is created around clips that are taken out of context. Or you don't have the entire context. So you can't really back yourself up because you don't really... you're not sitting in... podcasts are like lectures. You're listening to a lecture, which is good, It's a good way to kind of build that brain. Yeah, yeah. But you need those channels as well. That's really good numbers. Yeah. And and you're projecting growth with RCR? Yeah, I think so. I mean, it was difficult because, when we started, we had no idea what, we just thought, let's start a radio station. But that's how everything starts. You just got to... And that meant several kind of iterations of systems and things that we were using that needed to scale up. And then for one reason or another, you needed to shift to a different system. And so it's been a bit of a challenge to kind of get continuous numbers that you can compare over time because you've killed one system and implemented another. Yeah. Do you do podcasting or is it just radio shows, live radio shows? Oh, well, so, it's been a live radio show that on a sort of feed that goes out, from 7 in the morning till about 2 in the afternoon, and then it sort of loops around and repeats. So, but we're looking to sort of change things for this new year. Yeah, what are you going to change? Well, it's all pretty kind of under wraps confidential. Yeah, that's but good. We're working on it. It's going to be out early Feb. So that's what it's about. Yeah. Change things. Well, you have to, right? Everything's changing. It's a rapidly sort of evolving situation. Yeah, keep doing new things. Yep. And you've got to be able to make it work within your means. So yes. Yeah. And everybody has to be on board, and there's people that drop off, there's new people that join, and it's always that sort of, you just got to keep going and keep reflecting back. What is your actual mission? What are you here to do? What's your goal? Are you achieving it? What do you need to do differently to actually do the thing that you exist to do? So because at some point it kind of becomes its own thing. You started as a media channel for Voices of Freedom, and you're pushing things that are important and the bills and the submissions, but then it becomes its own thing. It's got its own brand, RCR Radio. I certainly got into it not because of, I never had heard of Voices of Freedom. I listened to it because it was an alternative news channel for me. So I had nothing to do with that channel, So then you get this new audience, and they're interested in that, and they're not interested in this, and they want to listen to, those clips and the different points of view. So who do you compete with? The platform then? Probably, largely. Yeah. Yes, But we have, and I'm sure we have some audience kind of crossover, but we go places where they won't. And I guess we have a style that's different as well. So we don't tend to call our listeners and people names. Is that what they do? What sort of names do they call their listeners? The cooker kind of one is fairly common. Yeah. They must have coined that term then. I don't know. Yeah. It was a bad move, I think if they'd done their job, we probably wouldn't exist. So really? Yeah. Yeah, I think competition is good. Yeah, totally. It's great. Yeah. Get involved, Well, we see it all as who else is doing independent media in New Zealand? People out of the slumber of mainstream media and towards the truth. Yeah. And you've got to kind of do that
gently, because it's not that nice to sort of wake up to cold water on your face.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Who else is doing independent media in New Zealand?
Well, I suppose there's lots of people, I guess, on the social media.
Yeah, but in terms of like proper setup operations.
Yeah.
The centrist is one.
Yeah.
Who else is doing stuff?
On that scale, not.
Yeah.
I think there's huge.
Which I think is kind of concerning, because you need to get people to kind of invest. And I have this argument with people all the time. It's like, if you have resources and you're trying to be an independent journalist and you're trying to, scream every day on X, it's like, well, what are you doing? Like, are you investing your money? Are you investing in media channels? Are you investing in podcasts? What are you buying? Are you setting up an investment group? Are you investing in RCR? Are you donating here? Like, well, what is it that you're actually doing? There's a lot of people that are not necessarily investing in independent media when they should be, if you listen to what they're saying, So there's kind of like a disconnect somewhere.
I think people tend to get used to just other entities being around and expect that they'll always be around, and that somehow or another it's someone else's sort of problem to find the way to fund that. And that way it probably is, but we're just doing what we can to get the word out, and we're kind of fairly organised. We have good systems set up and infrastructure and all of that kind of thing, but we totally exist on grassroots. So it's if people don't help, then the whole thing will disappear.
But it's amazing, like, people like yourself are doing this, because in my mind, I don't know of any other radio stations that exist. I used to hear a lot about of ZFM, and then there was all these other ones. They've just gone, at least in my mind.
Yeah.
I never hear about them at all. You don't see them on X. You don't see them on social media. And eventually they'll just disappear.
I think so too. And things like Spotify probably it doesn't help. For your average normal radio station that's a music radio. Instead of talk radio, I guess. You've just got the mainstream ones that are the ZBs and that sort of thing. But people just tend to have different listening habits these days. Yeah.
Or there's the other one that I forgot to mention is it the ZB Talk or News Talk?
Oh yeah, but I mean, that's fairly kind of corporate media, isn't it? It's
all right. Who owns that? NZME?
Yeah.
They kind of try to keep themselves. They want to come across as independent and alternative, and I don't know.
Probably fairly conservative. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, but mainstream conservative. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Anything else you want to talk about?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head, other than really just to kind of reiterate the thing of pull together. Everybody's got to work together to achieve the results that we're after this year. Yeah. Get out there and start podcasts and shows and just even conversations. Have more conversations. Have a conversation with people as you go about your day. Yeah. The Uber driver, the person at the supermarket. Yeah. That's how ideas take off and they spread is when one conversation at a time. And that can seem painful to a lot of people because it's so slow. Yeah. Right. But when you get a lot of people having conversations, then on important topics that people might not be thinking about. Yeah. You increase the chance that a new person who's fresh to an idea might hear more than one person talk about it. That pain of going through that is the only way you can build more capacity to deal with so many things going on at the same time and not get lazy and check out and expect somebody else to do it and feed it to you. And it's actually a good way to build your brain. It's exhausting to constantly keep up with so much that's going on. We live in this 2-day news cycle. Something explodes and then everybody's on that, and then there's the next thing and there's the next thing and there's the next thing. Just never stops.
But just having more conversations every single day is a good way to kind of build that capacity and build those brain cells and neural networks and different views, and constantly have those conversations. A really good point.
Yeah, totally. And the other thing that we're always big on is community. So we have 100 and something groups all over the country who, 40,000 people plus spread out amongst those groups, and they do all sorts of things to support each other at the community level, from, just having coffee mornings to having subgroups that go along and listen to council meetings and participate in local kind of government, or have a community garden, or some kind of trading that goes on with food or services and all that sort of thing. So that's a nice antidote to the overwhelm feeling, is to get back to the basics and to connect in with people in your local area and actually start kind of living life. One thing that we noticed that got people into trouble last time around when the mandates came was a lack of preparation. People had, very little resources in terms of financial kind of fat to be able to give themselves more time to figure out situations. They felt forced into taking certain actions to be able to continue to live. And so that's one of the things that we wanted to encourage people to do, is this radical kind of responsibility is, plant a garden. And find the people in your neighbourhood that are like-minded and make sure that you're connected in with them, so that if you ever need to, you've got somebody there that you can call on.
Yeah.
So I definitely say, if that sounds like something that people are interested in, go to the Voices for Freedom website, .co.nz, and just choose join a group, I think it is. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. It's great stuff. Tell us your socials for RCR and your personal, and then Voices of Freedom.
Oh gosh, I think it's RCRNZ on places like X. I would have to check, but you could go to the website, which is realitycheck.radio. You can find it all there. Personally, I think my Twitter or X is Alia Bee, B-E-E, like a bee. And same on Facebook, as I'm pretty much over Facebook these days. I deleted my Facebook account 2 years ago, and it's the best decision I've ever made. I'm not on LinkedIn, I'm not on Instagram, I'm not on TikTok. I just use X, and it's just had a very good positive influence on just my health, my mental health. They keep things positive. I consume information differently. It's good. And I listen to podcasts a lot. That's how I get my news a lot, which is what I'm constantly on. That's how I get my news. Good stuff. Yeah. Anything else? I think that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, great. No, thank you for coming. Yeah, great stuff. All right. Bye, everybody.